Welcome back to Magic Muggle, a Harry Potter after show. This is your host, Eric Cicada, your resident Ravenclaw, broadcasting to you from the highest tower in Hogwarts. It's good to be back. Hope you've had a good week. And, of course, today we will be talking about chapters 11 and 12 of Order of the Phoenix, the Sorting Hat's new song, and Professor Umbridge. Yeah, she's here, and she doesn't take a lot of time to get very annoying. I don't know if anybody else had this feeling while reading these chapters, but it is where Hogwarts stopped feeling completely safe, in my opinion. It's still magical. The Great Hall, still beautiful. The candles still float. The ghosts, they're wandering around. The feast is incredible, but underneath all of it, something feels different. And I actually think Rowling tells us that before Harry even walks through the front doors. Harry notices the strange skeletal horses pulling the Hogwarts carriages. I don't remember from the movie when he figures out why, but I don't know in the book if they're going to explain it. But I'm not going to say anything because in case you're reading along, we don't know yet. I actually kind of love that Rowling doesn't explain them just yet. Like she could have immediately had somebody say, "Oh, Harry, those are called blank," and blah blah blah, mystery solved. Instead, she lets us sit with it for a little bit. So I'm sure we'll find out. Harry can see them, Luna can see them, Ron can't, Hermione can't, Ginny can't. And if I were Harry, I'd be confused too. Why can't my friends see it, but just this weird Luna, love good girl, see it? It makes me feel a little out of place. It's just a mystery to them, and to Harry especially. It almost makes Harry feel like he unlocked something that permanently changed the way he sees the world. And honestly, that's kind of been the theme ever since the graveyard back in the Goblet of Fire, where we know what happened there. Harry came back a different person. I think Harry grew up the moment he left that graveyard, whether he wanted to or not. Then Rowling quietly reminds us that there's another mystery at hand. Where is Hagrid? Honestly, where is he? I love the first thing Harry notices isn't the castle. It's not the feast. It's not the classes. It's that Hagrid's hut is dark. Professor Grubbly Plank is back teaching, and nobody has any answers. Even Dumbledore doesn't explain it. It definitely makes me uneasy because Hagrid has always felt like one of Hogwarts' constants. Like when he got ripped out of the school in the second book, it didn't feel right. Just like it doesn't feel right like he's not there now. You expect Hagrid to be there, and when he isn't, you just feel it. It's amazing how Rowling can make the absence of a character feel like a character itself. Then Harry walks into Hogwarts, and this honestly made me kind of sad because Hogwarts has always been Harry's home. Think about that. Like the Dursleys were never really home for him. Privet Drive was never home. Hogwarts was. But now everyone's staring. People whisper as he walks by. Heads turn, conversations stop, and then it hit me. Last year ended so quickly. Harry came back from the maze with Cedric's body, and everybody went home. I mean, that was in everybody's head. Everybody drew their own conclusions, and so did the Daily Prophet. This is the first time Harry actually has to live with everyone else's opinions of him. Imagine spending your entire summer being called a liar by the biggest newspaper in your world, by the Ministry of Magic itself. And then, walking back into school, everybody's whispers probably feel like they're all about you. Whether they all aren't or are, it's in Harry's head. And personally, I felt this way in different levels and places of my life. You feel like everyone's looking at you when you're having a certain type of day. Well, that's this to the max. Every glance feels personal, whether it actually is or not. I think Rowling captures that anxiety incredibly well. Then we meet Dolores Umbridge. And before she even says a word, I don't trust her, which is honestly kind of incredible writing. She wears pink. She smiles constantly. She looks harmless. Everything about her is designed to make people comfortable. But somehow, it has the exact opposite effect. It's almost like she's trying just a little too hard to appear sweet. You know those people where your brain just quietly goes, something is off. That's Umbridge. Then we get one of my favorite Hogwarts traditions, the Sorting Hat. We don't get to be here for all these all the time. Usually, its song is basically introducing the houses. Bravery, wisdom, ambition, loyalty. We've heard these versions before, and this year it just feels completely different. This year, the Sorting Hat sounds worried. And there's one idea that absolutely blew me away. The Sorting Hat, whose entire purpose is dividing students into houses, starts questioning whether division itself is dangerous. Think about that. The magical object literally built to separate houses and students is wondering if it's accidentally helping the enemy. That is such a fascinating idea because this isn't really about Gryffindor versus Slytherin anymore. It's about the wizarding world. People believing Harry, people believing the ministry, families arguing, friends choosing sides. The hat isn't warning everyone that Voldemort is powerful or returned. It's warning them that Voldemort doesn't even have to attack if everyone tears each other apart first. That's honestly one of the smartest pieces of foreshadowing that this book has presented so far. I also love Hermione's reaction. Almost everybody else hears the song and goes, "That was different." And Hermione immediately starts wondering if the Sorting Hat has done this before ever. That's such a Hermione moment because she's not focused on just this performance. She's asking why. Nearly Headless Nick even explains that the Hat has given warnings during dangerous times before. So this wasn't entertainment, this wasn't tradition, this was an alarm. And nobody seems quite sure what to do with it. Then Dumbledore stands up, and honestly, I laugh because after that heavy Sorting Hat song, Dumbledore basically says, "Welcome back. Now eat." I mean, I wouldn't have argued. I've always wanted to sit down just for at least one feast at Hogwarts. It always looks so grand. Sometimes the greatest act of leadership is knowing when people just need dinner. For a few minutes, everything feels normal again. Ron immediately starts eating like Ron. The Great Hall fills with conversation. The ghosts float around. It's Hogwarts. But even during dinner, that warning never really leaves your mind. You keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, and unfortunately, it doesn't take very long. Dumbledore's giving his speech, and Umbridge just completely interrupts him, like in a moment that she felt she had to make a speech. Think about how weird that is. Nobody has ever interrupted Dumbledore like that. Not students, not teachers, not guests. It's just one of those unspoken rules of Hogwarts. Show some respect for the man. When Dumbledore is talking, everyone listens, except Umbridge. And what I love is that Rowling doesn't make a huge spectacle out of it. She just kind of has Umbridge stand up, kind of do her little, coughs, and that's it. But the reactions around the room tell us everything. You can read everyone's faces. McGonagall notices. The teachers notice. The students notice. Whether Umbridge realizes it or not, she's just challenged the authority of the headmaster in front of the entire school. And somehow, I don't think that was really a big accident on her part. But then she starts talking, and this is one of those scenes that actually gets better the second time you read it. I kind of had to trim back over this because the first time it sounds like a complete nonsense. Seriously, it's all progress, tradition, accountability, balance. It's the most boring speech imaginable. Even the students kind of stop paying attention. Cho's talking to her friends. Luna is literally reading the Quibbler again. Luna, I could just tell, is going to be the best comedic relief. I really can't wait to see why she's such a fan favorite in the book specifically. People are whispering, nobody cares, and Hermione is an exception to that. Hermione hangs on to every single word. And I love that because she's hearing something completely different. Everyone else hears a boring speech. Hermione hears a mission statement. When Umbridge says things like, "Some old school practices must be abandoned. Progress for progress's sake. Pruning practices that ought to be prohibited." She's telling everyone exactly what she's going to do. She's just hiding it behind a professional sounding language. It's honestly kind of chilling. She isn't there to improve Hogwarts. She's there to change it, to control it, to decide what should and what shouldn't be taught. And Hermione catches it instantly. I love that Rowling rewards readers who actually pay attention alongside Hermione. Then we get one of the exchanges that's kind of my favorite. Harry says the speech sounded like a complete waffle. Ron agrees. Hermione just quietly says it explained a lot. And I smiled at that because we have all sorts of moments like that. You're sitting somewhere, somebody gives a really boring speech, everybody tunes out, and one person leans over afterwards and goes, "Did you hear what they actually said?" That's Hermione. And she's reading between every single line. Then we reached the dormitory, and honestly, this scene surprised me because it wasn't Malfoy or some random Slytherin. It's Seamus, someone Harry has shared a dorm with for years, someone who's been through adventures with him, someone he considers a friend. Seamus finally admits his mother didn't want him coming back to Hogwarts because she believes the Daily Prophet. And I think what Rowling is doing here is, well, telling us the Ministry isn't really attacking Harry with spells. It just shows that they're attacking his credibility. And it's working. The war has officially entered Gryffindor Tower, of all places. That's actually scary, because if Harry can't trust the people inside his own house, where exactly is he safe? I actually understand both sides here, though. Harry has every reason to lose his temper. He's exhausted, he's grieving Cedric. Nobody believes him. He spent months being publicly attacked. Of course he snaps. But I also think Seamus feels believable. He's 15. His mother trusts the newspaper. Most kids trust their parents. That's real. That's exactly how misinformation spreads. Not because everyone's evil, because people trust the voices they've always trusted. That's what makes the scene hurt so much. Nobody twirling a villain mustache. They're just wrong. Then Neville quietly speaks up, and I absolutely love this moment. Neville simply says his grandmother canceled the Daily Prophet. She believes Dumbledore, so she believes Harry. That's it, not a big dramatic speech, no yelling, just we believe you. Sometimes loyalty doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it's just one person refusing to leave your side when everyone else starts stepping away. I think that's something we all can relate to. And honestly, Neville keeps becoming one of my favorite characters. Every book gives him another little moment where you realize there's so much more courage inside him than he gives himself credit for, especially knowing the history of his parents and how they went mad. It's just, honestly, it gives a lot of weight to this character that we've been kind of growing up aside and looking at. It's kind of a goofy guy. It turns out he's just been through a lot in life, and you feel for him. That's why I love where chapter 11 ends. Not because it's exciting, but because it's uncomfortable. The invisible horses, the missing Hagrid, the Sorting Hat's warning, Umbridge's arrival, Harry's isolation, Seamus. They're all connected. The chapter keeps asking the same question over and over. What happens when people stop trusting each other? And judging by the way that this book is going, I don't think we're done finding out. And now we move to chapter 12, and it opens exactly where chapter 11 leaves off. Harry's still carrying all that frustration from the night before. Seamus leaves the dormitory as fast as he can, and nobody really knows what to say. And honestly, I don't think Harry does either. Because what really do you, what do you say? Hey, you could stop believing the newspaper and listen to me. You can't. You can't tell people how to think, and that's just not how people work. So that's just how it is, unfortunately. Then Hermione reminds Harry of something that I completely forgot Dumbledore said. At the end of Goblet of Fire, Dumbledore warned everyone that Voldemort's greatest strength isn't just magical power. It is his ability to make people turn against each other. And suddenly the Sorting Hat song clicks, Seamus clicks, the Daily Prophet clicks. They're all talking about the same thing, division. I actually love when the books do this. Two completely separate scenes suddenly connect in your brain. You realize that Rowling isn't repeating herself. She's just building a theme. Breakfast gives us a chance to breathe. And honestly, I needed it because suddenly we're talking Quidditch again. Angelina Johnson, she's the new Gryffindor captain, and Oliver Wood is gone. He's graduated. Goodbye, Oliver Wood. Immediately, Harry lights up because he loves Quidditch. I always love these kind of moments because Quidditch feels like one of the few places Harry actually gets to just be a kid. Not the boy who lived, not the kid who fought Voldemort, not the kid in the newspaper all the time getting hate. Just the seeker. And after the emotional weight of the last couple chapters, that feels refreshing. Then Fred and George absolutely steal another scene. Their joke shop dream is becoming real. They're advertising for test subjects. Hermione immediately goes into prefect mode. You can't do that. They're putting up signs in the, common room, and Ron immediately goes into, please don't involve me. I laugh because that's exactly who these three are. Hermione sees responsibility, Fred and George see opportunity, and Ron sees incoming collateral damage. But underneath all the jokes, there's another important conversation. Owls, OWLS. Apparently, fifth year at Hogwarts is brutal. It's the SAT year. The workload explodes. Future careers suddenly matter. And I kind of love that this year introduces all of that on top of everything else. Because Harry doesn't just have Voldemort returning. He doesn't just have the Ministry on his back attacking him. Now, he also has loads of homework, exams, and career choices. It almost makes the magical world feel more real. Even heroes still have to study. And it reminds me a little bit more of high school, where you could just get swamped with homework. And I was not a great student. I definitely could have been a better student. I think I could have used Hermione a lot those years. Then Ron casually drops something I completely forgot. He wants to become an Auror. And immediately Harry says, me too. And I actually stopped reading for a second because I realized Harry's talking about his future. And that hasn't happened very often, especially as of late. Most of Harry's life has been about surviving in that moment. Now, for just a moment, he's imagining a career, a purpose, a life after Hogwarts. That made me smile. Unfortunately, that smile lasts about 5 minutes because next comes potions, and therefore Snape. And honestly, Snape somehow finds new ways to be exhausting every single year. I swear this man wakes up every morning asking himself, how can I inconvenience Harry Potter today? The assignment itself is hard. The Drought of Peace. Ironically, one of the least peaceful lessons imaginable. Harry misses one ingredient. One. And Snape vanishes the entire potion. 0 credit. Lesson over. Well, meanwhile, other students are creating absolute disasters. Cauldrons exploding. Potions smelling like rotten eggs. There's just complete chaos in this class. But Harry, of all people, of course, gets singled out again. And I know some people love Snape. I'm sure there are layers to him, but right now he's making it very difficult. Then one of my favorite little moments, Cho Chang comes over by herself. That's actually a huge deal. She's choosing to talk to Harry. Remember, she lost Cedric too. She was pretty much dating Cedric. She could easily blame Harry, but she doesn't want to avoid him. She starts a conversation instead, and it's awkward. It's sweet. It's believable. And just for a second, it feels like Harry might finally catch a break. Then Ron starts interrogating her Quidditch team. I laughed pretty hard because Ron's not trying to ruin everything here. He's genuinely interested. He just has absolutely zero awareness. Poor Harry just cannot catch a break. And then everything changes because now it is time for Defense Against the Dark Arts. And this might be one of the most frustrating classes we've seen in the entire series. I think what makes Umbridge such a brilliant villain is that she doesn't walk into the classroom acting evil. She walks in acting like pleasant. Good afternoon, class. Good afternoon, Professor Umbridge. Kind of like a young grade school class, she treats it, though. Everything is polite, everything is controlled, and everything feels off. It's like she's less interested in teaching Defense Against the Dark Arts and more interested in teaching obedience. Even before the lesson starts, she's already correcting how students answer questions. Raise your hand, speak only when invited, say my full title. It's subtle, but she's establishing something. Control. Then she writes today's lesson on the board, a return to basic principles. Yes, she acknowledges how there have been a million Defense Against the Dark Arts teachers, which is actually true. They might not have a baseline knowledge, and that's what the test is going to be about, apparently. And at first glance, it doesn't sound so bad. Maybe they're reviewing, maybe they're refreshing the fundamentals before jumping into harder material. But no, she tells everyone to put their wands away, open the textbook, and read. That's it. No spells, no demonstrations, nothing. And I remember thinking, wait, is this Defense Against the Dark Arts? It's like learning to ride a broom by reading about brooms, or learning Quidditch entirely from a textbook without ever touching one. Magic is practical. You can't memorize your way into becoming a wizard. It reminds me of those classes in high school. You know, you might have had this where, if you're younger, one of your teachers, it seems like they don't really care, and all they really do is assign you reading and don't really teach you much. Like, they just kind of sit behind the book and put on movies sometimes. And we always love the days they put on movies, but looking back now from my perspective, it's kind of lazy if you're watching a movie every day. The teacher isn't wanting to teach, they're just trying to get through the day like the students. But that's a whole other discussion. Hermione does exactly what Hermione always does. She asks the obvious question: when are we actually going to practice defensive magic? And I absolutely love this moment because Hermione isn't trying to start an argument. She's genuinely confused and asking a perfectly reasonable question. If the class is called Defense Against the Dark Arts, shouldn't we, defend ourselves against the dark arts? Umbridge's answer tells us everything. She says, students don't need practical magic. Theory is enough. And I almost laughed because imagine a swimming instructor saying, today we're going to read about swimming. Tomorrow we're going to discuss swimming. And next week you'll write an essay on swimming. Then during your final exam, we'll throw you into the deep end. Nobody would accept that. Yet, that's exactly what's happening here. Harry can't accept it either. He asks the question everyone else is thinking. What if we're all actually attacked? And Umbridge smiles, and that's what makes this scene so unsettling. She never loses her temper. She never raises her voice. She simply says, there is nothing waiting out there. Harry knows that's a lie. We know that's a lie. Not because somebody told him, but because he lived it. He watched Cedric die. He fought Voldemort and saw him resurrected. He survived Dementors only weeks ago, attacking him in society. Imagine someone calmly looking you in the eye and telling you the worst thing that's ever happened to you didn't really happen. That would drive anybody crazy. Then something else really stood out to me. Dean speaks up. Parvati speaks up. Hermione speaks up. This isn't just Harry arguing anymore. The class itself realizes something is off and just wrong. And that's important because Harry isn't some lone rebel looking for attention. Sometimes he kind of gets thrown into that category. The students genuinely understand. They're being taught less than previous years, and they know it, even if they can't fully explain why. Then Harry says Voldemort's name, and the room freezes. Every time Rowling writes that moment, it has power. People gasp. Neville nearly falls over. You can almost feel the air leave the classroom. But Umbridge doesn't react with fear. She reacts with satisfaction. Almost like she's been waiting for Harry to say exactly that. It's almost like she was just put here to give Harry a worse time when he's already having a tough time in his life. It's so frustrating, even from the beginning here. And if it's anything like the movies, this is going to be even harder to endure because this is just her first lesson. She calls Harry a liar. And this is the moment I've been thinking about ever since I finished reading these chapters. Harry doesn't lose his temper because someone insulted him. He loses his temper because Cedric mattered. When Harry says Cedric was murdered, this isn't Harry trying to win an argument. That's grief speaking. He's tired of people pretending Cedric's death was some unfortunate accident. It only can be like Harry did it if Voldemort didn't come back, or it makes Harry look a lot worse if they don't want to believe the truth that Harry's telling. He's so tired of everyone pretending Voldemort isn't back. He's tired of feeling like he's the only person willing to say what happened out loud. And honestly, I think in Harry's position, anyone would have really snapped eventually. And then Umbridge gives him detention, not because he misbehaved, not really, because he challenged the story she wants everyone to believe. That's the scary part. Punishment isn't about behavior anymore. It's about disagreement. It's about staying quiet, whether it's right or wrong. Harry storms out. He runs into Peeves, who somehow manages to make the situation even worse. And I forgot how funny Peeves actually is. He's singing about Harry being mad, making fun of him, following down the hallway. And it's one of those moments that's funny as a reader, but if you're Harry, you're probably just wanting 5 minutes where somebody leaves you alone. And by the way, there's talks of Peeves being in the new HBO show. I'm excited about that. Then, one of my favorite scenes in the entire series, Harry walks into McGonagall's office. He's expecting another lecture. Instead, she looks at him, pauses, and says, "Have a biscuit, Potter." I love this scene. Not because it's funny, although it is. I love it because it completely changes how we see McGonagall. She believes him without hesitation. She knows Voldemort's back. She knows Umbridge is dangerous. She isn't angry because Harry told the truth. She's worried because she knows the truth has consequences now. McGonagall tells Harry something that I think is incredibly important. She basically says this isn't about whether you're right or wrong. It's about surviving. And that's such a different lesson. Because Harry's instinct has always been to stand up, to fight, to call out what's wrong. That's one of the reasons that we love him. But McGonagall understands something Harry he just doesn't quite see yet. Umbridge isn't playing by normal rules. She isn't trying to discover the truth or any truth whatsoever. She's trying to control the narrative. There's a difference. Harry thinks he's arguing with a teacher. McGonagall realizes he's arguing with the Ministry of Magic itself. One line especially stuck with me. She tells Harry to be careful around Dolores Umbridge because she knows exactly who Umbridge reports to. That's the moment I realized this isn't just another Lockhart situation. This is not another incompetent defense against the dark arts professor. This is politics entering Hogwarts. The castle has always felt like a place slightly removed from the outside world. Now, the outside world has walked through the front doors. And then McGonagall offers Harry another biscuit. I think it's genuinely one of the warmest moments of the book, if not the series, because McGonagall doesn't hug Harry. She isn't overly emotional. That isn't who she is. She shows that she cares by quietly making sure he isn't facing this alone. It's such a McGonagall way of saying, I believe you, without ever needing those exact words. Looking back at these two chapters together, I think what Rowling is trying to do is something really clever. At first glance, it feels like we're just settling back into another school year. The feast, the classes, homework, Quidditch tryouts, business as usual. Except nothing is business as usual. Harry sees the world differently now. The Sorting Hat is warning the school. Friends are beginning to distrust each other. The Ministry has planted someone inside Hogwarts. Students are literally being taught not to defend themselves. And Harry is being punished. Not for breaking rules, but for telling the truth. And by the way, that's a week-long detention for him now for telling the truth. That escalation is honestly incredible. It's not loud. There aren't giant battles and there aren't flying dragons over the castle. It's quieter than that, which somehow makes it even more unsettling. And I think that's why Umbridge works so well as a villain. Voldemort is terrifying because you know exactly what he is. Umbridge is terrifying because people like her actually exist. She smiles. She speaks politely. She talks about safety. She talks about standards. She says she's here to help. And little by little, she starts taking things away. First, practical magic, then open discussion, then the truth itself. That's frightening because she doesn't conquer Hogwarts through force. She conquers it one rule at a time. My favorite moment of these two chapters is when Harry stands up to Dolores. We kind of get to see what the year's going to look like. I love that, and I love the biscuit moment with McGonagall. It's just more than a speech could ever do in a moment like that. These chapters may have not had giant action scenes like the Triwizard Tournament, but I honestly think they're some of the most important chapters we've read so far. Because this isn't the beginning of a battle, it's the beginning of an occupation. Hogwarts hasn't fallen, not yet. But for the first time, it feels like somebody is trying to change what Hogwarts actually is. And that's a battle that's going to be fought inside classrooms, not just on battlefields. And that is where we leave off today. Next week, we'll have chapter 13 and 14. We're doing doubles this book, and I'm having a great time doing it. Next time, Harry begins serving his detentions with Professor Umbridge. The mystery surrounding Hagrid will continue to grow, and the pressure inside Hogwarts only keeps building. Join our Discord. It's in the description of this episode. Give me your thoughts, magicmugglepod@gmail.com. Love to hear your take. Leave a review. Leave our 5-star rating or a thumbs up. It goes the longest way. I know you are out there, and let's get more people in this boat so we can all be excited about Harry Potter together. Thank you again so much for listening. This is Eric Cicada, a.k.a. Mr. Honest. And until next time, wands down, hearts full.